Hearthstone is a pretty fun game, but sometimes they release cards that make you feel irrationally angry, you want to smack your desk, but most importantly, you want to just scream at Blizzard, why the heck did they make this card? And that's exactly what this Hearthstone video is, the cards that you hated going against the most. Starting off with an honorable mention is Draconic Lackey. They introduced this new Lackey in Descent of Dragons, and my god, this is probably the most frustrating card to play against, especially when you're going against a tempo rogue. This card was also introduced with the Galakrons, which means the rogue one could actually generate this Lackey over and over again. It was infuriating. At the release of Darkmoon Faire, I have yet to see a card that really ignited the community as much as Ticketus did. People hated Ticketus because of the fact that it would destroy your deck, and on top of this, they could do it multiple times with Yasharaj, which was extremely frustrating to go against if you're just trying to do something fun. No more tickets! With the release of Demon Hunter and Ashes of Outlands, we saw a lot of powerful cards, but one card stood above the rest as so infuriating to play against because there's virtually nothing you could have done. And that card was Altruist, the Outcast. After you play the left or rightmost card in your hand, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Because Demon Hunter had a lot of cheap cards, the ability to play a bunch in a single turn with Altruist was really easy, and you would end up just clearing boards and dealing a ton of damage and often just killing them. Demon Hunter had Skull of Gul'dan, but on top of that, a 0-mana Twin Slice at the time, which made this so easy. It was gross. The next card we have has been in the game all the way since Classic, and it has caused some pain and suffering. Even though I don't think the card is broken in the slightest, it could be really infuriating to play against. And that card is Brawl. Sometimes you'll get extremely unlucky and you just want to scream.
Sorry that happened.
Next, we have a card that was released in the Witchwood that I think people are still having nightmares till this day.
My jaws that bite, my claws that catch.
Shudderwalk was a card that had a battle cry repeat all other battle cries for the cards you played this game, and as you could probably imagine, this card could OTK you pretty regularly once you got the deck set up. But I think the main reason why people hate this card is that when it was first released, the animations could take roughly 5 minutes every single time, which was obviously super frustrating to play against. Our next card comes from Kobolds and Catacombs, and that's exactly where this card should have stayed, in the Catacombs, because my god, this might be the most frustrating priest card we've ever had to play against. And that card was Psychic Scream. This card would shuffle all minions into your opponent's deck, which means if there's a bunch of bad minions, they're in their deck, and it makes it so frustrating to top deck and the actual way to kill a priest. You could tell how irrationally angry I am. Now, I think that card for me is extremely frustrating, but for most people, there is another priest card that makes it higher up on their list.
Greetings, fellow humans.
Convincing Infiltrator was a card introduced in Rise of Shadows that had Taunt and Death Rattle destroy a random enemy minion. Now, this card wasn't as bad, but with Mass Resurrection also being introduced into the set, this card would keep coming back over and over and over again. Back in the day of Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, Druid got a lot of great cards, and one card in particular was enough to make someone quit the game. Jade Idol was a card that had choose one, summon a Jade Golem, or shuffle 3 copies of this card into your deck. Now, the issue with this card is that not only would it give you tempo when needed, but it would give you inevitability, and you could literally never go into fatigue, so you auto won almost every game against control. But I don't think I'm doing this enough justice. Let me let Day 9 talk about this.
You're already like, well, this turn I'll summon a larger and larger man, which will allow me later on to summon an even larger man. Yeah, no, your decks aren't cool. They don't take finesse. Your brain is small, and both your hands suck.
In Knights of the Frozen Throne, we got introduced to a ton of great cards, including the newly introduced hero cards, which were never in Hearthstone before. But one card from Druid kind of ruined the experience. Spreading Plague was a card that would summon a 1/5 Scarab with Taunt, and if your opponent had more minions, cast again. So theoretically, this could fill up the whole board of 1/5 Scarabs with Taunt. Now, I don't know about you, but for that to happen for only 6 mana is kind of insane. And did I mention when they first released this card, it was 5 mana? Sorry, I just got scared from the thought of the 5 mana Spreading Plague, my bad. Back in the day of Classic, Paladin had some form of aggro deck, and one of the most frustrating aspects of it is that even though they had an empty hand, they could draw so many cards out of nowhere. And that's all because it came from Divine Favor, which let you draw until you have as many cards as your opponent. Now, when you're going against another aggro deck, this card virtually did nothing, but when you're going against that juicy control deck, my god, you could draw upwards to 9 cards and it was disgusting. Back in Savers of Uldum, they reintroduced the Highlander cards that were first introduced in the League of Explorers, but one of those new Highlander cards was absolutely disgusting. And that card was Zephyrus the Great, which had the battle cry, if your deck had no duplicates, wish for the perfect card. Now, Zephyrus is a special card because not only did it feel really bad when your opponent played it against you and got the perfect card, but sometimes when you played it, this would happen.
I could like Zephyrus for Shadow Flame? What? Okay. Where was my Shadow Flame? Hello?
I think honestly the thing about Zephyrus was so infuriating is that it gave classes that probably shouldn't have great removal a great removal option, and the fact that you could Shadow Step it in Rogue was just Speaking of Rogue, there is one card that was in the game for so long that could just auto win the game for you whenever it was played early enough. Edwin Van Cleef was a combo gain +2/+2 for each other card you played this turn, and it was 3 mana, but for 3 mana, you could do something like this.
Frozen could just play a turn 1 6/6, or even bigger. He could. This is interesting because I was actually about to say when we were getting into the game here, I wonder how big is Frozen going to go here on this Edwin. He's just actually going to prep his coin.
My goodness. A 10-10 Van Cleef on turn 1? And people were saying bad things about patches. Good lord.
All right, well.
I haven't even mentioned my most hated card in Hearthstone, and I've been doing this video and I was gonna see if any of these cards that I've talked about would change my mind, but no, this card is still my most hated card. Incanter's Flow was introduced in Ashes of Outlands, but didn't really see play until the following year, where No Minion Mage was at its peak, followed by the Questline Mage. And let me tell you, once we got to the Questline Mage, this card made me want to uninstall Hearthstone. Don't make a card like this ever again. Anyways, that's gonna be it for the hated cards for Hearthstone. If I missed a card that you think it should be on this list, let me know with a comment down below. And while you're there, let me know what you find as your favorite Hearthstone card. I would like to make a video on that.